Hello, BookTube. It happened again. The same thing has happened now for weeks. I thought that Saturday was all squared away, and then when I next checked late at night, mail had been delivered. I swear, the very last stop that the mail truck driver makes on Saturdays. And as a result, I never get to see the person and say anything about the route or find out anything about who my Saturday driver is. One way or another, we have mail on a Sunday. There's packages. There's 4 packages. We'll just go through them. Is it 4? Is it 5? Well, it's a number of packages here, and there's a small box at the end. So we have mail on a Sunday. We'll just see what we have here. My mail opener is confused. Well, anyway, let's see. Okay, this is from Europa Editions. Great publisher, great people. I don't know if we saw this on this channel before or not. This comes out later in the month in one of their lovely paperbacks. This is Sandrine Colette, Nothing But Dust. That is the finished copy with horsies on it. And well, I don't remember if we saw this. They make these lovely sturdy paperbacks that really this is what, $17, and really, as I've said many times on this channel, every new book should come in this form. At the very least, this should be the main option. If you're a publisher and you want to still make a dust-jacketed, a hugely expensive hardcover available, then go right ahead and customers can order it, but this ought to be what the new release looks like. And it ought to set you back, $15 as opposed to $35. But let's see what we have here. Told in stark language reminiscent of the novels of Cormac McCarthy and the Southern Gothic of William Faulkner. That's 2 warnings. You proceed at your own risk. Sandrine Colette's Nothing But Dust is a gripping, unsentimental, ultimately majestic story about life in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. It's about being married to Deb. By the time Raphael is born, his family farm has already gone to hell. His father has abandoned them, or so his mother claims. The twins Mauro and Joaquin blame Raphael for their father's departure and exact revenge on their baby brother in increasingly violent ways. Esteban, his other sibling, is a silent boy whose affections and allegiances change with the shifting winds. Ruling over this dysfunctional roost is a tyrannical and avaricious mother, a woman who works her sons to the bone by day and gambles away the profits by night. And this is on the steppes of Patagonia that this is taking place. We have seen this before, and this is just a finished copy. Okay, so the author was born in 1970, but I'm going to read her book anyway. I've had this copy for a while, and I haven't looked at it. Once again, a November book, and all I'm doing out of a sense of guilty conscience is catching up with October. Because October was such a marquee, such a wonderful month, that I don't want to just say, okay, well, an arbitrary day has come by and now I'm not going to read any more of you. So I'm a bit behind on November, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's move on here. We got one of these big white cardboard things, which don't work. They don't ever work. So you just have to tear them apart. They have a tab, but you end up having to tear them apart because it doesn't work. The tab doesn't ever work. And yet these things in a pallet, 50 in a case, cost money. It costs money to invest in these things that don't work. That's what a grown person had to do to get the book inside this. Whereas if you just put them in an envelope, it'll cost you 1/10 as much, and it's necessary anyway. One way or another, the person at the other end of the line has to tear open the package like a hungry raccoon. So you might as well make the package as cheap as possible. No one's listening, so let's see. Okay, this is a March release. Huh. Okay, this is by Bruce Berger, and it's A Desert Harvest, New and Selected Essays. I kind of like the design of this cover with the line running through, but I don't think I know this author. Bruce Berger is one of the most prolific and astute chroniclers of the American Southwest, and I'm delighted to share his career-spanning collection of work. Somewhere between a metaphysician and a naturalist, the author captures the spirit of life in the desert, from its cacti and birds to its musical culture and small-town politics, with a delightful off-kilter poetic sensibility. These pieces range from the prose poem-length meditations on stupefying heat, a found photograph, and the best way to view a desert sunset. I can tell you the best way to view a desert sunset on television. Two engrossing long essays on the canal system in Phoenix, Arizona, and the 1991 eclipse. Oh, wow. Well, that sounds really good. The Denver Post compares him to Andy Dillard and Barry Lopez, which is about as high a praise as you can get for nature writing. I don't think I've ever read anything by this author. Okay, well, this will be fascinating. I've spent a great deal of time in the American Southwest and enjoyed none of it. Boy, oh boy, stupefying heat. He is indeed. Stupefying heat, and also a drastic cognitive dissonance. Because you'll be out in the middle of nowhere with your dogs, and it'll be stupefying heat. And, of course, don't forget snakes and scorpions everywhere. But almost no time after the sun goes down, all of that heat goes away and becomes unbelievably cold. In other words, you don't have to be in the American Southwest very long, on foot, hiking, in the middle of nowhere, before you realize that it's all like that, first of all. It's not like that, like Phoenix is magically different. It's all like that, and the first realization that comes to your mind when you spend like 3 days far from the roads, far from anywhere, is that humans aren't meant to live here, which is why humans don't naturally live there. It is so inhospitable to a big, naked, fleshy organism that lives in a cocoon of its own ready liquid and cannot live without it. I recommend it, but with many safety nets in place and only temporarily. Anyway, let's move on here. Let's do this next one. In a manila envelope, which can easily be opened and fed to your local bean. What have we got? Okay, this is due in mid-November. This is from Princeton University Press, the wonderful people at Princeton University Press. It is wrapped in plastic. That obviously cannot stand. Oh my. Steve's going to enjoy this. This is by Melissa McCormick, and it is The Tale of Genji, a visual compendium. Written in the 11th century by the Japanese noblewoman Murasaki Shikibu, The Tale of Genji is a masterpiece of prose and poetry that is widely considered the world's first novel. In this book, Melissa McCormick provides a unique companion to Murasaki's tale that combines discussion of all 54 of its chapters with paintings and calligraphy from the Genji album of 1510. In the Harvard Art Museum, the oldest dated set of Genji illustrations known to exist. Oh my. Oh my. Look at that. It's just going to be... So this is all about... it's got a built-in bookmark and everything. Very classy. It's all about the different chapters, chapter by chapter of Genji, but it's got full-color, high-detail reproductions of a centuries-old illustrated version. Illustrated versions of the Tale of Genji were very popular. There were all sorts of different... they took all sorts of different forms. And that in itself, that is a cultural study all by itself. I read a book on the subject that was just endlessly fascinating. Oh my. Oh my. Some of you on BookTube may remember Genji because recently it was announced, Sean the Book Maniac and Britta Bowler announced that they'll be doing a buddy read of The Tale of Genji. Perhaps you've been invited. I imagine most of BookTube has. I have not. I have read Tale of Genji more often than anyone else on BookTube. I have reviewed The Tale of Genji for the national and international press. I have participated in what we would have, had I known that BookTube existed, I would have called it a buddy read on my, in the blogosphere. I helped to create with a couple of other editors, the Summer of Genji, where we read, a whole bunch of us read Genji all summer long and reported on our progress in our various literary forums. If I can find the links to the Summer of Genji, I'll gladly include it. It was a lot of fun. All of that was a lot of fun. And yet it's ashes in my mouth, since there's a buddy read of Genji going on and I'm not involved. But that's okay. Don't you worry about me. I'll be fine. Well, this is amazing, though. This is fantastic. And it also, and this comes out soon, so I get to just dive into it. But the fact that it follows Genji chapter by chapter, talks about each chapter, and includes the illustrations for each chapter, the fact that it's arranged that way instead of just as a collection of essays, some of which can be strong and some of which can be weak, means that this is a comparative, very rare thing in a mail haul. This is almost certainly a book that will come straight into this room. No provisional placement elsewhere. No moving up in the ranks from treasured shelves out in some other room to a provisional shelf in here, but I'm not really sure, or to a pile on the floor in here, but I'm not really sure. No, this is going to go straight on the shelf next to Genji. And that's an amazing feeling. Fantastic. Well, I should say it almost certainly will, unless it's poorly done. But that seems almost sacrilegious to suggest at this point. All right. Oh, that is fantastic. That is certainly going to be the high point of this mail haul for me. I don't know that these things would be better. Let's try this next one and see. What have we got here? Oh God. Oh God. It's poetry. It's by Brian Tier, and it's called Doomstead Days. It's from Nightboat Books. In this collection of 8 plein air meditations, Plein space AIR, any of you know what that means? The author offers readers a new kind of nature poem, one that both anticipates and contributes to the renewal of public dialogue about environmental ethics and individual responsibility, instigated by the UN's recent report on climate change. What? The UN's recent report on climate change was a couple of months ago. How could this possibly have been made, printed, and distributed in that time? Maybe they mean a different report on climate change. Drafted on foot, these site-specific poems document rivers, cities, forests, oil spills, mountains, and apocalyptic visions. They encounter refineries and urban watersheds, megafauna, and industrial toxins, each encounter intertwining ordinary life and ongoing environmental crisis. Okay. This book is a stunning and powerful series of lyrical experiments in embodied ecological consciousness. Okay. It can't contribute to public dialogue on anything if the public doesn't read it. And if it's poetry and the public looks at it and says, all right, this is clearly a closed door, I'm supposed to utter some sort of password, I'm supposed to know the author, I'm not supposed to be able to just pick these poems up and recognize even what they are, much less be able to read and understand them. I'm not supposed to be able to do that. If you write your poems that way, then you are not contributing to a dialogue. Obviously, since it takes 2 to tango. And I don't know. I don't know what these are going to do. For me, I hesitate to wouldn't know really even where to pick one. Can we find one that looks remotely small? I mean, why would you do this? Why would you do that? Instead of, this is all one poem. Page after page of stanzas like that. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you print it as a poem unless this was important? Unless it being on separate pages was important. And if that's true, if it being on separate pages is important, or if how it's aligned on a page, zigging and zagging, is important, then what does that say about the poem? What does that say about the actual things it says and the way it says them? If gimmickry like that is important to understanding the poem, or even essential to understanding it, then what does that say? What is that especially going to say 300 years from now? You're going to tell a printer 300 years from now that he needs 40 pages to print this one poem? What if he doesn't want to do that? What if he prints it all in once, in a column, with breaks between stanzas? If you, as a poet, this poet, could go forward those 3 centuries and say, no, this ruins the poem, then how good is the poem now? I don't know. The one that I'm talking about that's splayed all over all these pages with 6 lines on each page, is called Headlands Quadrats. Maybe the poet thinks that quadrat means it has to be on broken up like this. Past the decommissioned fort. Past is not capitalized. The beginning of the poem is not the beginning of the poem. Past the decommissioned fort. Past the former Nike missile site. Past the abandoned battery. Past the empty gun platform. Past dugouts lined with concrete. Sandbags the ocean. With the ocean stepped down from sandbags. I suppose to make you pause. I guess that's the reason for that to happen, to make you pause. It can't be a structural thing because it doesn't happen on the other pages. So I guess sandbags the ocean is meant to make you pause there. When that's the poet's job, not the typesetter's job. But anyway, but as we've covered on this channel before, that contemporary poetry is not really my thing. I will try to find someone to review this. It doesn't come out until April, so I have time to see if anybody's willing to take a chance on this. If you're listening to me and you're willing to take a chance on this and writing an intelligent review of it, feel free to contact me in the comments field or email me. I'll gladly send it to you, and you can see what you can make of it. I'm perfectly willing to admit that I am not the key audience either to read it or to review it. And I've been having good luck recently with people, with people coming forward and saying, I'd like to try my hand. That invitation is wide open for this mail hall and any other mail hall. I don't know I never know how often I'm supposed to repeat it on this channel, but I am the editor at a literary journal called Open Letters Review. We have a very good masthead full of people, some of whom are also booktubers, and we're always happy to look at new people. It's a small but respected literary journal. We've been blurbed on a number of book covers in this past year. And it's the masthead is really good literary company to be in. Not just me. I'm not referring to me. I'm referring to the other people. So as far as a place to start, as far as a place to break in to book reviewing, Open Letters Review is fine. It carries on in that way that fact which was true of its predecessor, Open Letters Monthly, which was also a good place to start, and move on from there if you want to placing book reviews elsewhere. So if you feel like you want to try your hand at writing book reviews, then get in touch with me. In the last year, I have done that, and it has been a slightly bumpy road because with Open Letters Monthly, I always used to say, if you have interest in trying to review one of these books that we're seeing here, I mean, we've got essays. We've got a novel. We've got, well, don't even think about it. I will be reviewing this, but you know what I mean. You see these mail halls all the time. And in the past, with Open Letters Monthly, I used to say, feel free to contact me. We're always happy to work with new writers. And that was easier because Open Letters Monthly had a large amount of very involved editors. And Open Letters Review has fewer very involved editors. And the most involved editor is yours truly. But my own writing circumstances have changed over the last few years, almost in real time here on BookTube. If you've been watching my 8,000 videos, you've seen it change, which is something I'm very humble about and very grateful for. And that change is that I have become much busier writing. So, this has forced me to adapt that, if you want to break into book reviewing, I'm happy to help you. It's forced me to adapt that approach. It used to be that, let's say person X said, yeah, I definitely want to try my hand at writing book reviews. I would love to publish a book review at Open Letters Review. I have never reviewed a book before, but I would love to give it a try. In the past, what I did with that person, some of you will have been that person, was to say, fantastic, great, no need to worry, I'll be right here with you the whole time. I'm sure that in no time at all we can learn the basics. Tell me what new book you're interested in, and I will send it to you. And there were two things wrong with that. There wasn't anything wrong with that approach. There are two things that make that untenable in 2018 and presumably in 2019. Number one is that the person X invariably came from a small rural village in New Zealand, literally as far away from Boston as you could be and still be on the planet Earth. I never actually had person X be on the International Space Station. I kept expecting it. I never had person X not be from rural New Zealand, which means that when I got their list of prospective new or forthcoming releases that they might be interested in trying their very first review draft on, I was then faced with a $50 to $70 mailing bill just to get the book to them. And it took 3 months. The book was old by the time it got to them, if it got to them at all. Half of them, that money was just, I might as well put it out on the sidewalk. The book never showed up where it was supposed to. And there are two things wrong with that now that I have suddenly have less free time. Number one is that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to throw away money. It's just not worth it. My response now to person X saying, I would love to try my hand at it, is to say, great. What we want to do is get the basics of writing a book review for you in place before I send you anything. Obviously, I'm not going to send you somebody's hard work, an advanced copy of a new book with a publicist watching to see what kind of reviews it gets, for a training wheel mission that may not even happen, because after I spend $70, you may not get the book. Instead, what we're going to do is, if you're interested, what I want you to do is pick a book that you have right where you are and write a review of it. Because the book isn't the problem, right? For the first few reviews, the book isn't the problem. It's the reviewing that is. You have to develop a new muscle. Then, once those reviews look good, my new procedure will be, of course, I'm still not going to send you $70. I'm still not going to send a book to rural New Zealand. Not when, in the 21st century, there are all kinds of ways for you to get access to forthcoming books. NetGalley turns almost nobody down these days. You can see why. It's in their best interest to spread the word about their books. And I guarantee you that if you fill out a profile and apply on NetGalley and get accepted, even if you're at the most minimal level of acceptance, I guarantee you will be approved for at least 2 or 3 books that I would take, that I would consider good for a review. And that way no one's out of pocket $70 for something that might not even get to you. And the second thing is that process also solves the second problem, which is that I don't have the time to do 80 drafts on a first draft of a book review with someone who has the best of intentions. I honor those good intentions, but I can't do it. I've been very lucky in 2018. I've had some people who said, I want to try my hand at this. And I say, great, fine, pick something, review it, and send me your draft, and we'll talk about it from there. And they send me a draft that's all but fine. That's all but perfect. They send me a working piece of prose. Now, some of those people, I write back and say, this is wonderful, this is incredible, this is your first try, and it's runnable the way it is. And they say, that's so great to hear, thank you so much, and I never hear from them again. And then there are other people who I do hear from. I have no control over that one way or another, but that system works much better. I feel certain that that's the system I will stick with in 2019, where once I know that you can review, then we can talk about a traffic of books, if you're in America. And that until then, we can just work on drafts from what you have at hand, more distantly, less hands-on than in incarnations of Open Letters Past, simply because I'm the only one doing it and I don't have the time. So I guess my point is, with a book like this is modern contemporary poetry. This is obviously doing structural things that I neither know about nor care about. If this is your thing, then you might want to consider trying your hand at reviewing. If you live in America, especially if you live relatively close by, in New England, for instance, then I might be willing to send this to you on spec. If you've never written a book review before, it feels a little unfair to the author to send you their book, which they poured effort into, as a training wheel exercise that probably won't result in a usable review. That doesn't seem to me fair. It seems to me that we should be working on the craft side, independent of the book side, if that makes any sense. Sorry for the long digression. It's been on my mind all morning. So if, for instance, you, on Goodreads or on your blog or whatever, if, for instance, you have experience in writing about contemporary poetry and want to try your hand at this, then let me know. But anyway, let's move on. We're almost done. We'll do the box here, and then we'll be finished with a Sunday mail haul. That was a huge digression about open letters, but it's on my mind because I'm going to need to think about it for 2019. Open Letters Review, this new incarnation of Open Letters Monthly, began on January 1st of 2018. So Open Letters Review is coming on a year old and has done really well. We've been blurbed on books. We've been mentioned in dispatches. We've published a lot of really good work. And it also preserves an aspect of Open Letters Monthly that I treasure, which is to have a home venue of my own that is small and well-respected, where I can review anything that I want. Where I don't have to run anything by an editor. I don't have to worry about someone else picking it. I don't have to worry about someone else running a review. I don't have to do anything like that. Some big marquee books or local interest books, those I'm going to get assigned, or I'm going to ask to be assigned. But that leaves, as you've seen with these mail hauls, that leaves tons of books that if I didn't have that home venue, I simply wouldn't review them. And that's not a good feeling. When you read as many books as I do, that's not a good feeling. You're making a racket, little girl. You are. Anyway, let's see what we have here for this last one. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, okay. This is from the University of Nebraska Press. I swear I like these people more with every book they send me. This comes out on December 1st. And it's by Richard Ravalli, and it's Sea Otters, a history. Sea otter. More than any other non-human species, it was the sea otter that defined the world's largest ocean scope prior to California's gold rush. In addition to the more conventional aspects of the sea otter trade, including Russian expansion in Alaska, British and American trading in the Pacific Northwest, and Spanish colonial ventures along the California coast, the global importance of the species can be seen in its impact on the East Asian maritime fur trade. This trade linked Imperial China, Japan, and indigenous Ainu peoples of the Kuriil Islands as early as the 15th century. In this book, Richard Ravalli synthesizes anew the sea otter's complex history of interaction with humans by drawing on new histories of the species that consider international and global factors beyond the fur trade, including sea mammal conservation, Cold War nuclear testing, and environmental tourism. Oh, okay. All right, that sounds fascinating, but I was kind of hoping when I first saw this that it would be a natural history. Instead, it's just a history. In other words, it's going to be mostly 90% a history of massive genocidal killing of sea otters, not natural history or naturalist encounters or that sort of thing. And that's a shame, because I've encountered that before many, many times with books on whales. You get it used to be. It doesn't really happen that much anymore. But once upon a time, especially before the International Accord outlawing whaling, you'd get a new big picture book on whales, and I would think the same thing. I would see it in the mail, and I would think, oh, fantastic, a great big new book on whales, and it would end up being mostly about humans killing whales. And that 1-2 punch there, that kind of mental jujitsu just kills you. And it looks like, at least I'm getting a warning now of a pub sheet, it looks like that's what this is going to be. It looks like this is mostly going to be trade in dead sea otters rather than a book about living sea otters. But that's okay. I'm sure some of it will be natural history, and maybe the trade in dead sea otters will be interesting in a macabre kind of way. But anyway, that's it. That is our Sunday mail haul. How do you like that? So we have a book on the sea otter trade. It says Sea Otters, a History, but I think it's about the sea otter trade. We have Doomstead Days by Brian Tier, contemporary poetry. We have A Desert Harvest, new and selected essays by Bruce Berger. We have Nothing But Dust by Sandrine Collette, a novel about the Patagonian steppes. And we have this, The Tale of Genji, an illustrated companion. Oh my. Oh my. So I know what I'll be getting to first. There's no doubt about that. But that's it. I don't know how many Sundays this is going to happen. All it'll take for me to find out one way or another will be to finally catch the mail truck driver on Saturday. But I'm not going to hang around the porch at 9 at night waiting for him. I just assume if you're not here by 8, you've knocked off for the day. And I've been wrong week after week. So, but anyway, that was mail on a Sunday. So I'll wrap this up, but we've got plenty more to talk about. So I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.